Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the Free Hour. It's your boy Trevor Turner, back with another video in our emotional intelligence series, namely the power of connection through emotional intelligence. This ABC series is where we dive into the topics related to emotional intelligence, how our connection with our emotions, about how our awareness with our emotions, about how we perceive, evaluate, manage our emotions, and how they can help us, especially as it comes to personal and professional success. So last week we talked about the building block of it. We talked about the way we perceive our emotions. We talked about awareness. So today we're going to be talking about, for the letter B, we're going to be talking about balance. B is for balance. How do you stay balanced when life throws you off course? Emotional balance is the key to navigating life's up and downs with grace and resilience. And in this video, we're just going to learn about what emotional balance is. We're going to learn about the importance of emotional balance. We're going to learn about how to achieve it and its role in enhancing connections with others, and of course, improving personal and professional success. So let's get started. Let's get started with understanding emotional balance. Emotional balance is the ability to maintain equilibrium in our emotions even when faced with challenges, stress, or external pressures. So when we think about emotional balance, we think about the people who are able to withstand the storms of life, the people who are able to keep calm when the storms of things that are going on, the people who are able to continue to do the things that they do, continue to perform at a high level when things are not going the way that they want them to go, when things are not going right in their life, when everybody's trying to get against them, when things are just stacking up against them, when it feels like when it rains, it pours, when it feels like if it ain't one thing, it's another, but you're still able to just keep going. Emotional balance is the ability to stay even keeled, the ability to perform at a high level, the ability to stay level-headed when people are coming at you crazy, when things are going wrong. It's all about having perseverance and resilience when things are not going our way. Because we know, anybody who's lived any amount of time on this world knows that there are going to be times when people just try you, they get on your last nerve, when people are trying to come against you, when everything just seems to be an obstacle and nothing just seems to go right. It's about still being able to persevere. It's about still being able to have that resilience. It's about still being able to get up and do what it is that you need to do. Not necessarily with that smile on your face, but also not necessarily just looking at everybody and everything that comes against you as something that works your nerve, or having that sour face on, or having that mad face on. It's about remaining on an even footing. It's about remaining balanced, even when things aren't going our way, even when things are trying to crush us from every conceivable angle. And emotional balance is crucial for mental health. It's crucial for effective decision making and maintaining healthy relationships. We go back to Daniel Goleman. Daniel Goleman, the psychologist, author of Emotional Intelligence, Why It Can Matter More Than IQ. We talked about him a little bit in our awareness video. He is actually the guy who popularized the term and the concept of emotional intelligence and its impact on personal and professional success. And when he talks about his work on emotional intelligence, it highlights the role of emotional balance in managing stress and maintaining mental clarity. Now that we've taken a look at where our emotions take us, now that we take a look at the ups and downs, one of the things that we need to remember is that having that balance emotionally, not going to the extremes, one or the other, not making decisions that have to do with our mental health, not reacting, not making decisions that have to do with our work life, and not making decisions that have to do with our relationships when we are at those extremes. Having that balance, that middle of the road, having that even keel, being able to take that step back, to put that distance, to put that gap between the stimulus and the reaction. That is that emotional balance. That is why that emotional balance is so important and so crucial, especially when it comes to things like effective decision making. You're not clear when you're in your anger, and you're not clear when you're just super way up at the top of the world. You're not clear when you're in those super just way out and extreme emotional states. You're not in your mental clarity. Having that balance, being able to take that step back, being able to either bring yourself down or bring yourself back up, helps you to manage that stress, helps you to maintain the mental clarity, helps you to make those decisions, and helps you to maintain those healthy relationships. And of course, we're going to get into a little bit of the science behind it. We're going to go back to Richard Davidson, the neuroscientist that we spoke about last time at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, known for his work on neural mechanisms of emotion and well-being, and his research on emotional style, particularly how individuals with balanced emotional styles show greater activity in the prefrontal cortex, which helps regulate emotions and maintain calmness under stress. Now, the brain processes emotions, and the role of the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala in emotional regulation. We talked about this with awareness. We talked about how taking the look at your emotions, about your triggers, about how things throw you into emotional states can actually help you to start the process of rewiring how you deal with those emotions and rewiring how those emotions hit you and how those emotions affect you, how strongly they affect you, how they're able to take you away, how you're able to withstand them and not succumb to them. And it's the same thing with balance. If you get into the point where you practice balance, one of the things that happens is that when we go back to Richard Davidson's work, these are not people who were just born naturally inclined to emotional balance. These were people who learned how to balance their emotions. And these people who learned how to balance their emotions, they show greater activity in the prefrontal cortex. When we start to rewire ourselves with our awareness, when we start to rewire ourselves with that balance by putting the gap between stimulus and reaction, by being proactive. When we even go back to the 7 habits of highly effective people, if you want to get out of the science of it, it's simply just putting those 2 seconds, those 3 seconds, that pause in between the stimulus and the reaction. Getting back into a balanced state before you make your decisions, getting it back into a balanced state before you react to something that comes into your life. The APA, American Psychological Association, a leading scientific and professional organization representing psychology here in the United States. They're known for its rigorous research standards. What they did a study that found that people with higher emotional regulation skills, they have lower cortisol levels, reduced risk of chronic diseases, and better immune function. One of the things that we've known is that people who stress tend to get sick. People who stress more, they tend to have things like heart disease. People who stress more, they just have lower immune function. They are more susceptible to things like high blood pressure, heart disease. They're more susceptible to things going on up here. They're more susceptible to the physical ailments. The people who have stress and have lower emotional regulation skills. So when we start to rewire our brain, what we were talking about before, when we start to rewire our brain to get our prefrontal cortex activating more through being balanced emotionally, when we start training ourselves to put the gap between the stimulus and the reaction, when we start training ourselves not to be reactive people, but to be proactive people, to say that we don't let the world act on us, we act on the world, and then taking that further step and saying we act on the world in an emotionally balanced manner, we are actually putting ourselves in a better position health-wise, physical-wise, mental-wise. They've actually done the studies on it. We have lower cortisol levels, reduced risks of chronic disease, and better immune function. So when you think about the personal and professional success that having the emotional balance will bring you, a better standing and a better stance, not only from a mental standpoint, from a perspective standpoint, but from a health standpoint as well. Let's talk about some strategies to cultivate the emotional balance. Let's talk about some mindfulness practices. So now when we talk about a mindfulness practice, I actually kind of introduced you guys to this last week with our awareness video. One of the ways that I do it, that I personally take that step back and help myself to maintain and achieve emotional balance, is my mindful breathing, or if you want to call it the short body scans. One of the things that you can do to help you bring yourself back into the present moment, to help you bring yourself out of the past, help you bring yourself out of the future, help you bring yourself out of anxiety, help you bring yourself out of anger, help you bring yourself out of reactive and reaction mode, is to just simply do a quick mindful breathing exercise or a quick and simple short body scan. And the way that I like to do it is I like to incorporate it where I'm mindful of how my breath, how it feels coming into my nose, how it feels going down into my throat, how it feels with my body rising and falling with it. And then once I've been able to latch onto my breath and get out of my thoughts and get out of my feelings and get out of my emotions and redirect my focus, now I'm able to bring myself into focus on my body. And this comes back with our awareness. It helps me to get back into like, okay, this situation had my hands clenched, ready to go. This situation had my heart beating crazy fast. It had me ready to go. This situation had me sweating. This situation had me shaking. This situation had me feeling like that. Or this situation had me feeling like, you know, when you get that lump in your throat where you feel like you're about to cry, it has that feeling like your eyes are like heavy and bulging and feels like tears are about to start coming out. This situation had me feeling like that, and I'm able to get back into my body to address and recognize those things. And now that we've taken the step past awareness towards emotional regulation, towards balance, is you can start to bring yourself down off of those highs, or you can start to bring yourself up off of those lows. You can just focus on your body and get out of those feelings. It's still not about judging what's going on. It's still not about judging why it's happening. It's simply just about taking the step back further from awareness now into balance. It's to be able to act instead of react. It's able to be proactive instead of being reactive. It is able to look at things in a balanced, a calmer, a more whole perspective instead of just an angry perspective, instead of just a sadness perspective, instead of just a triggered perspective. It is able to take that step back and put that gap between stimulus and reaction. And then next, we just simply talk about cognitive reframing. One of the things that we can do to help ourselves maintain emotional balance, because it's all well and good to put that gap, right, between stimulus and reaction, stimulus and action, right? It's all well and good to put that gap there. It's all well and good to breathe and focus on your body and how you're feeling and everything like that. But if you can't train your brain to look at things in a different way, then it really won't matter. You'll just be a calmer, angry person. You'll just react in an angry way, but in a calmer manner. Like you'll do everything that you wanted to do when you was mad, but you'll do it in a way where you won't get caught, right? So one of the things that we do is we do cognitive reframing. And the technique of cognitive reframing is just simple. It's where you change the way you perceive a situation to alter its emotional impact. One of the examples that I can give you is every time an obstacle comes up, every time something's going on that I don't feel like is going my way, or I don't feel like is a positive for me, because one of the things you have to remember is nothing has built-in meaning, right? Nothing that happens to you has built-in meaning. Nothing is supposed to make you feel a certain way, no matter what, every single time. You are allowed to choose how you feel about anything that happens, And the way that you can do that is you can simply reframe the way that things process through your mind. Instead of saying, damn, why did that happen to me? Or damn, why did I have to go through that? Or why? Say, what about this situation is going to help me get to where I need to go? How can I use this situation to get myself better? What can I find that's positive about this situation, even though it may not seem like there's anything there? What about this situation is going to make me stronger? What about this situation is going to make me faster? What about this situation is going to make me better, right? And that's one of the things that I did, especially being locked up and being in prison. I had to do a lot of cognitive reframing. I had to do a lot of rethinking about my situation to get from being the person who was told on to being the person who was put in a place to teach him what he needed to do to become a productive member of society, right? That takes a lot of cognitive reframing. Every conversation I had with somebody, whether I didn't like the conversation, whether it was a difficult conversation or whether it was an easy conversation, I say, what can I take from this conversation to make myself better? Every time I go through something, even at school or at work or whatever the case, and they give me quote unquote negative feedback about what it is that I'm doing, that's just so simple where you can say, okay, what about what they're saying can I take to do to make my next things better? And a lot of the times, especially people who do not have that emotional balance, we take everything as an attack. We take everything personally. We take everything as something that is meant to disparage. Everything is something that is meant to hurt us, when really it is something that can be used as an opportunity. Literally everything can be an opportunity. Everything can be an opportunity, because nothing has built-in meaning. Nothing has a built-in feeling that you are supposed to feel. And everything can be used in a way to help you get yourself better. Everything. You just have to be able to think about it like that. Obviously, some situations are going to be very difficult to put yourself in that mind frame. Obviously, no one is going to be able to say, okay, you know what? Every time somebody is coming after me, every time somebody is hating on me, or every time somebody's talking slick or whatever the case, this is an opportunity for me to be better. I mean, even though, yes, it is, you're not necessarily going to feel like that every single time until you start to train your brain to say, okay, what can I do better next time? What can I do better next time to get this petty boss off of my back? What can I do better next time to get these petty coworkers from trying to hate on me? And then you got to realize too that the thing that you do to step your game up might even encourage those petty coworkers to hate on you even more. But then you can say, what about this as an opportunity to make my situation better? And the thing is, when you're first starting to do it, do you think you're gonna get a lot of answers to that question? Probably not, unfortunately. But that is why you have to retrain your brain and put yourself in that mode to, get yourself there, to where you can constantly and consistently, continue to say to yourself, there's an opportunity here. I can't see it yet. This is just bothering me right now, but there's an opportunity here. This obstacle is an opportunity for me to get better, stronger, faster, whatever the case, smarter. It's an opportunity for me to learn something I need to learn. It's an opportunity for me to learn a lesson I need to learn about the industry I'm trying to be in. There's something here, even though I can't see it yet. But I guarantee you, if you keep trying and if you keep taking the step back, putting the gap between the stimulus and the action, and you keep telling yourself, okay, what is the opportunity here? What is it that I can take from this to make myself better? If you keep asking yourself that question, eventually you get some good answers. And then, of course, we dive deeper into, simple emotional regulation techniques. And these are just the ones like deep breathing. Like a lot of times when you get mad, people will tell you, hey, man, breathe. It's just that simple. When you just take those deep breaths, because a lot of times when you get mad or you get angry or you get upset, or even when you get sad or when you're hurt or whatever the case, when you're afraid, a lot of times what happens is when you're out of your body and in your mind and just totally absorbed with all those emotional things, those emotional reactions, you won't notice it, but your breathing is very shallow. Like that, right? So you just force yourself to take that deep breath. And a lot of times that's enough to simply calm you down. A lot of times it's simply enough to bring you back to a more emotionally balanced state. And then, of course, progressive muscle relaxation. If you're not trying to do like a whole body scan, if you're not trying to do a whole little technique and you need to actually make like a split-second decision, but the decision in and of itself is causing you an emotional response in here, okay, you just say, okay, I'm gonna take some deep breaths, and I'm gonna say, okay, I'm just relax my hands, I'm relax my arms, okay, relax my legs, okay, I'm relaxed. Okay, what should I do? Make the decision. It's that simple. Putting that gap is so crucial. And it's also that simple. It's just, if you have more time to do more, do more. And then lastly, of course, journaling. Journaling is one of the things that I do to really help me to manage my emotions effectively. Because even when I've calmed myself down, even when I've taken myself out of the situation, even when I've done everything that I can and I've found the opportunity in the situation and how these people are talking to me or whatever the case, and I've done everything that I can and I'm still on an even keel, I'm still smiling, and I'm still remembering all my tools, and I'm still remembering, like, even if I've turned it into like, hey man, all that shit that just happened is literally just going to be a video, and it's going to be a fire ass video because I'm going to be fucking fired up while I'm talking about it, right? And I'll still be mad about the shit, right? So I just journal. I journal, and you'll find when you're mad about some shit, bro, if you got to take the bus to work, or if you got to take the bus to school, or if, whatever the case, you doing this after you get the kids off to school and you got some time just talking to your phone. In between meetings, talking to your phone, write that shit down somewhere. Just get that shit out, because obviously you're going to latch onto it. You're going to want to react to it. You're going to want to do something about it. And see, a lot of times, especially when we're talking to people, when we're talking to other people, we don't want a solution. We just want to vent. We just want to get that shit off of our chest, get that shit out in the air, out in the ether, just so it's not in here swirling around and causing all sorts of shit to go on, right? So it's easier to do. You don't have to worry about the person saying, well, did you try this or did you? No, you just write that shit down somewhere and you get the non-judgmental reaction and you just get it out of yourself. And of course, the benefits to applying those emotional balancing techniques in our daily life, obviously they help with relationships. Obviously, if you are able to approach your relationship in an emotionally balanced way, especially when it comes to our romantic relationships, our relationships that involve people who display, if you are involved in someone who displays the opposite energy as you do, if you're a masculine person with a feminine person, you need to be emotionally balanced when dealing with those other people. When dealing with your romantic interests, you need to be able to be emotionally balanced, because one of the things that is going to happen, these people are capable of arousing emotional response. And if they weren't, then you wouldn't be with them. They would be boring. If these people were not capable of arousing emotional responses within you, then they would not be what would be considered a romantic interest. Now, the flip side to that coin, the other edge to that double-edged sword, is that, yes, they can arouse emotional responses. So the thing is that you have to realize that there's going to be highs, there's going to be lows, there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, it's going to be like a roller coaster. It's going to be exciting. Ride that wave and have fun with it. But realize this, that you need to maintain your emotional balance, especially as a man, especially as masculine. You need to maintain that emotional balance when that tempest comes, when that storm comes, because just like the happy is there, the low is going to be there every single time. It's never going to fail. And it's not because that person that you're with has anything wrong with them necessarily. It's just because that person that you're with is an opposite of you. That person that you're with is an opposite energy, and that opposite energy is going to cause friction. It just happens. It's going to happen. Look forward to it as an opportunity to have some fun with it. Laugh in her face when she starts yelling at you. I mean, just but learn how to duck. And then when we talk about how we can apply emotional balance and how it benefits in the workplace also, emotional balance in professional settings, is particularly in managing stress, helps you to not only deal with your coworkers and your supervisors, the people under you, and all of those things in a better manner. It helps you to form empathetic connections. It helps you to look at these people in an empathetic way for the things that you know that they're going through. It also helps you to cultivate their strengths, cultivate their weaknesses in a better way, because you'll look at their weaknesses not as something that is a front or an attack on you, or not as something that provokes emotional response. You'll look at it as something that you can look at as in a balanced way, and you can say, okay, how can I use their strengths and weaknesses to the benefit of this company, or the benefit of this project, or the benefit of what I got going on, right? And being able to do that in an emotionally balanced way will help you to actually do that. Because if you're always just on some disappointment because of this person's weakness, or if you're riding the high because of one of the person's strengths, and that strength doesn't necessarily extend to these other projects that you need him or her to do, you will get that expectation will fuel the disappointment. You'll get emotional responses instead of having that emotional balance and saying, okay, how can I use this person's strengths? And then how can I also play this person's strengths off of this person's weaknesses? Or how can I play this person's weakness off of this person's strengths so that these people can become a team that is exponentially better than they were before by themselves? And then also, when it comes to making sound decisions, you can't make sound decisions when you are in your feelings or in your anger or in that bubble of sadness or whatever the case. And it's one of the things that I learned very early on in the workforce, in my management positions, is because some of the best workers you have, right, they might do some shit to piss you off. And if you get rid of them just because they say or do some shit that might piss you off, then now all of a sudden that well-oiled machine that you had that just had a little bit of a mouth on it, now all of a sudden that machine is not very well oiled anymore. Now all of a sudden all the people who make you feel good about yourself and the kiss asses and the brown noses and all that shit, those people who put you on an emotional high every time you come into work, now these motherfuckers are wasting company money because they ain't about shit. Don't have the skill set. They don't have the certifications. They don't have the experience. All they know how to do is make you feel warm and fuzzy when you walk into the building. Being able to have that emotional balance. It's not even just about pulling yourself up from the lows, it's about pulling yourself down from the highs too. And being able to make sound decisions that are not based upon emotional reactions or responses. And then obviously in personal development. It helps you to get back out of yourself and out of your feelings when you are making decisions about where it is that you want to go with your future. Because if you're making it solely on decisions and solely how you feel in here and in your gut, then you will chase some dreams that are pipe dreams. You will also get away from things that are your purpose that might feel a little bit challenging, even though you're actually really good at them. And then obviously it helps you to navigate challenges without being overwhelmed by your negative emotions. And lastly, we're going to talk about dealing with triggers. So everybody deals with triggers. I remember when I first got into like recovery and stuff like that, that was the first time I had ever heard about triggers. And this was things that caused you to be put in a state that caused you to crave or want to do drugs, right? And it's because a lot of us, even the people who are teaching these classes or these courses or running these meetings, didn't even really understand that triggers were just any and everything that brought up feelings and brought up emotions, and they disrupt our balance. They disrupt our equilibrium. So one of the things that we can do to help to manage our triggers, and this is going back to the awareness, is knowing what triggers us. Not necessarily knowing what triggers us to want to do something or knowing what triggers us to want to go back into old things, but just knowing the things that trigger us to begin with. Knowing the things that put us in the emotional state to begin with. Knowing the things that disrupt our balance to begin with. And then once we know those things, and once we've gone into those things, then we can start to attack them. Then we can start to do things like pausing before reacting, putting that gap between the stimulus and the action or the reaction, using positive affirmations, telling yourself you're not that person no more, telling yourself you're bigger and better than those things that happened in your life before, telling yourself you are not a reflection of your father's absence, telling yourself you are not a reflection of your mother's abusiveness, telling yourself you are not a reflection of any of those things. That way, when things start to come up and things start to trigger you and things start to take you back into those old feelings that you're not even feeling at that moment, and they start to disrupt your balance, you can positive affirmation your way out of it. And then obviously engaging in a physical activity to help you reset emotionally. And this really helps. I know this helps people when they want to quit like smoking cigarettes and stuff. Every time you feel like having a cigarette, you do push-ups instead. Or every time you feel like having a cigarette, you do jumping jacks or you do squats or whatever the case. Now we can break that down even further. Every time you are in that state where you feel like your balance is being threatened, right? And this is like a prolonged state. This is something that happened at work and you journaled about it, you wrote about it, you talked to somebody about it, you got it off your chest, you got it out into the air, out into the ether, out of your personal world. You got it out here, but it's still, for whatever reason, it's still just brewing in here, right? Just circling around, just causing all sorts of shit. You know what? I should have told that motherfucker to go fuck himself. I should have told that motherfucker, I ain't doing no motherfucking reports. I ain't doing none of that shit. I'll show up late if I fucking want to. Watch what the fuck, you ain't gonna do shit to me. This is a union job. You can't just fucking fire me. What you gonna do about it? Let's go out to the parking lot, matter of fact. Let's go handle it like that. And it's just brewing. It's just causing all sorts of shit like a witch's cauldron. It just stinks. And all that shit is just going on in your mind. You can do physical activity. Physical activity can help you reset emotionally. Go to the gym. Get outside and take a walk. Get on the ground and do some sit-ups. Get out there and do some push-ups. Get over there and do some burpees. Walk over to the park and get your ass whooped in pickleball because you're in a fucking emotionally fragile fucking state. You ain't gonna be able to fucking get your head in the game. Go get your ass whooped in some pickleball. Go get your ass whooped in some basketball. And then bring yourself down off of that high. And you'll be able to start resetting emotionally. And then of course for me, one of the things that works is best for me is to maintain consistency in all of those activities. Maintaining consistency in all of the activities we talked about. Daily habits that support emotional care, emotional balance, regular mindfulness practices, regular meditation, regular awareness of what's going on. When you wake up, right before you go to sleep, journaling. Setting aside that time for your self-care, setting aside the time for yourself. It's one of the things we talk about, one of the things that was talked about even in The Richest Man in Babylon. The Richest Man in Babylon, he said, look, you take that off the top and you pay yourself. Do that same thing with the time that you have for your day. Take some off the top and pay yourself with some self-care, where you're talking to yourself about what's going on, where you're talking yourself off of that ledge, where you're not just waking up, getting in the shower, getting dressed and going to work with all of that bullshit from the day before, still swirling around in here, causing you to feel just tense and to feel tired or to feel like hopeless or to feel like, man, this job, if I don't get a new job soon, like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Take that time for your self-care. Take that time to do something that works for you, whether that's just as simple as working out. Some people, I know people who are very successful at maintaining emotional balance. They do not meditate. They do not journal. They do not do anything. They just simply work out. I know some other people that they journal, they don't work out, they don't do any of those things, and they're able to maintain that emotional balance. Obviously, because after reading Hal Elrod, The Miracle Morning, which I suggest that everybody read, Hal Elrod, The Miracle Morning. Everybody needs to read that book. If you combine every single one of those things every single day for yourself at the beginning of the day, you will get exponentially better than just doing one of those practices on its own. But incorporating even one of those practices in it on a consistent basis will help you to maintain emotional balance. It will help you. It will help you to be able to go through life on an even keel. It will help you to remain level-headed. It will help you to remain that person that people will go to in the crisis. And I know that's not the end-all, be-all. That's not the goal, just to have people want to come to you in a crisis. But you will start to notice that you are the reliable person. And if you are reliable for other people, you will be reliable for yourself. You will make reliable decisions for your future self. You will make reliable decisions with your money. You will make reliable decisions with your savings, your investing. You will make reliable decisions about whether or not you take this new job that has you moving over to this new spot, or whether or not you take that job that has you staying over here in a place that you're not necessarily happy with, or a place that you feel like is not the optimal place to raise your kids, or whatever the case. Having that balance is just crucial for personal and professional success. And that's it for that series, bro. That's it for that video today, brother. This has been Emotional Intelligence, the B video for balance, emotional balance. If you like the video, like it. Share some of your thoughts with me on how you maintain emotional balance, or what some of the things that you feel like emotional balance does for you to help you through your daily life. So some other people can maybe who are struggling with it can see like the benefits of it from a different perspective. Share it with your friends. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for watching. Deuces. Balance is not something you find. It's not something you was born with. It's something you create. All right? Let's get it.